Right now, you're listening to me on the Shure SM7B, a dynamic broadcast microphone that really needs no introduction. But the thing you might not know about the introduction to this video is that I'm hand-holding the SM7B and a wireless contraption that I have put together, and this is what started out as sort of like an ironic joke has become pretty much one of my favorite microphone setups. Not long ago, I made a video comparing handheld microphones at NAB in Las Vegas. I took a whole bunch of microphones and I wanted to see what different handheld microphones sounded like and how they performed. And as part of that, I also took a few microphones that I knew were kind of ridiculous, sort of as a joke, which is where this came from. Because I did want to know why we tend to use certain microphones over others when we're doing handheld, interviews and those sorts of things. And I wanted to see if I'm using an impractical microphone, if the practical reasons for these other microphones would become more apparent. But in the same way a regular joke turns into a dad joke when it becomes apparent, what became apparent to me is that it's not about sound quality necessarily, it's about practicality. And the impracticality of the SM7B, which is still there, kind of went away though when I saw the actual performance of it and heard the actual performance of it, because you're getting SM7B quality audio wirelessly. And yeah, you could probably do something with a 58 maybe, sure, but this is more fun. So what I want to do today is kind of walk you through this setup, show you how I put it together, and then if you want to use a strange non-traditional microphone or even this exact thing for yourself, you could do that. So in order to do that, I'm going to need to stop using this microphone. So now you're listening to me through the Sennheiser MKH50 boomed overhead, and I'm going to take apart my SM7B wireless rig to show you what it is made out of. So the two main things that you need are pretty simple. You need an XLR microphone and an XLR wireless transmitter. In this case, I have the Sennheiser EWDP. And this works great with the microphone like the Sennheiser MD46, where you plug it in and you lock it in, and now you have a really nice handheld microphone. There's plenty of room here if you want to add a mic flag or you want to add a windscreen, and there's plenty of grippy handle. And this is just an all-around great microphone, a very practical setup. So all you need, XLR microphone, XLR transmitter. And so as I was preparing for this comparison video, I wanted to use an impractical microphone. The SM7B made the most sense. I always have my reporterstore.com windscreens on there, which sounds like an ad. I'm not associated with them. I just get that question a lot. Where do you get colored windscreens? Reporterstore.com. They do sell some on Amazon also, like no-name brand ones, which work okay, but they really stink. You kind of have to leave them like outside for like a week after you get them. Otherwise, as you're holding it to your face, it's like off-putting. Who knows what kind of chemicals to it. So anyway, we've got the microphone here. I wanted to just plug in the transmitter here, but if you've ever used an SM7B, you know that it is a very quiet microphone. So just plugging in the wireless transmitter isn't really enough. You kind of need to boost the signal. And fortunately, most XLR transmitters, like the EWDP here, do have 48 volt phantom power. So what that means is I can connect a booster to the SM7B, then the XLR transmitter, and then this can provide the phantom power to engage the booster to use the SM7B. And what's crazy about that is it actually makes the SM7B so loud that I had to turn it down. In fact, when I was recording over here at the beginning, I had to turn down the gain on the receiver by like multiple decibels. And when I did it at NAB, we actually had to put a negative 20 decibel pad on the FX3 to use it with the SM7B. So the cool thing about this setup is even with a microphone like this, you're gonna gain more gain than you could ever really need. And so that's pretty much that there. But the problem is if you just have this going, it's sort of an awkward thing and you're grabbing the microphone because it's not designed to be a handheld microphone. You're not grabbing it by the booster, which is bad. That also sounds like slang for something. So I took one of these mic extension tubes. These, you can get them in like packs of, multi-packs for pretty inexpensive. And it's just a 5/8 on both sides. And I just put this in the bottom of the SM7B here, and then connect the booster. In this case, I'm using the Clark Technic CT1, and then connect the transmitter And that's pretty much it. And now I've got my wireless SM7B, and this is what I used at NAB. And it works out because this extension tube here means I'm not putting too much pressure on the booster, and everything is good to go. And because it is an SM7B, there's so little handling noise. And it's actually not a difficult microphone to use in an interview situation where you need to go back and forth between you and somebody else. So it's very directional. It's good at rejecting, it's an SM7B. It's good at rejecting background noise. I do think the SM7B's lack of handling noise is something that's very underrated compared to just like a regular handheld microphone. This is significantly heavier. It's also not something that like is as easy to just set down on the table like a regular microphone is. It's sort of, you gotta carefully set it down, carefully pick it up. And I really felt like when I was walking around with it at NAB, that is putting a lot of pressure kind of on this area here. I'm still moving the booster a lot. There's a lot of wiggle room in here with the booster and the mic tube, and it just felt a little janky. But I like this setup so much that I actually did want to improve it once I got home. So here are a few things. Here's two things that I really did. I designed and 3D printed this little tube handle thing, and then I also bought a pouch for the transmitter. So one thing about this transmitter is it is made out of plastic and it doesn't feel like the most durable thing in the world, and I really don't want it to get beat up. So I bought this little pouch for it. I think the pouch was like $20 or something. It's not terribly expensive. And then you pop it in here and you lock it down. And now I have a little more durability for my transmitter right here. But I still have this issue of these kind of being a little janky. And so Bronson from Audio Hotline and I were talking about this at NAB, and he was suggesting like I could put a little piece of foam in between here, and then we could just take like gaff tape and tape up the handle and you'd be good to go. And I think, is this working? This is working. And I think he was right. I think that is something that would have worked really well. But since I like 3D printing and I have a 3D printer, I thought maybe I could do something that's a little less sticky and a little less messy than dealing with tape and foam and all that. And so I 3D printed, well, I got out the 3D printer, and I had to spend a lot of time in Tinkercad. And I am not a 3D designer, but I was just trying to get my measurements right and essentially create two tubes. The booster and the extension tube are different sizes, so I needed two different size tubes, and I wanted there to be a wall between them because that's what would stop them from getting pressed together. Now, one thing I should point out here is whenever you design something in Tinkercad, which is totally free software, by the way, it's awesome. It gives your default project like just a goofy name. It's usually adjective and then weird noun name thing. And for the 3D printed part here, it just called it the Spectacular Bojo, which is the best name in the world. So I don't know what that means, but as far as I'm concerned, this 3D printed part here is called the Spectacular Bojo. And so it took a few iterations. I wanted it to be round so that way it was easier to hold. Got out the 3D printer, printed it. So my first version was actually a little too small, and it's not bad. My second version is the one that fit kind of perfectly. And so going back to the MKH50, what you do, all you need to do is take off the transmitter, take this. There's a large one and a slightly less large one. The large one goes over the booster. The other one goes over the mic extension tube. Once I have this here, I can press this down and it doesn't move those anymore because there's the plastic barrier in between them. And so since these are also different lengths, I don't know if you can see that. The booster and the extension tube are slightly different lengths. So all you do is you slide this over, press down on the little switch for the booster, slide it up, attach the transmitter, lock it down, and then you just slide this down a little bit so that way the release button on the booster pops back up, and that actually holds this in place really well so it's not sliding. It doesn't really add handling noise or anything. Here we go. There's me on the microphone. And it's a little bit more comfortable to grip, and now these things aren't going to get damaged. It feels a little bit more robust. The transmitter itself is protected. The booster and my whole little like janky handle is protected. And now I feel a lot more comfortable carrying this around. I did try to create another version that has like a bump, almost more like a grip here. And I'm sure you could do some, it's so far beyond my design skills. I could do this. This is as much as I can do. So if you're interested in this, I will put a link to this 3D print file in the description for this video, and you can use it yourself or modify it and improve it. And you could add in like hand grips or make it work with other boosters and all that kind of thing. And one of my favorite things about this that I didn't expect is just how good and well balanced it feels. The MD46 is a great feeling microphone. It's lighter, of course, but it's a really well balanced microphone. It feels natural to hold. This because of these specific components and the size of it and the way the weight is distributed, it actually feels, it's heavy, but it feels like really good to hold. It doesn't feel unnatural. It doesn't feel awkward. It feels pretty well balanced. It feels like it's like holding a trophy is what it looks like and feels like to me. So that was kind of a fun thing. Not every microphone I connected to the transmitter was as well balanced as this, especially the ones that aren't traditional handheld microphones. One thing I did want to address is why I used the Clark Technic CT1 instead of another booster, because I actually did think about this quite a bit. My original impulse was to use the Handheld because this is my personal favorite booster. I just like the quality of it, and it's just my favorite one. But in this specific case, what I noticed is it did not latch into the XLR transmitter securely. I kind of like really had to force it. I don't know if it's these two specific units don't go together that well, or if I don't know what it was. It just didn't work in a way that would be reliable, especially before I had like the 3D printed thing. So the Handheld was out. I also have the Coda Stealth, which is designed specifically for the SM7B, but I sort of had the same problem. I couldn't really get it. It was less that the transmitter wouldn't connect, and I couldn't really get this fitting in the SM7B in a way that I was comfortable with it not coming loose while using it. And it's also, you can kind of see here, significantly taller than the mic extension tube, whereas the Clark Technic CT1 is basically the exact same length as the extension tube. The transmitter connects to it perfectly, and it latches into the microphone perfectly. And once I put the 3D printed part on here, there was still enough room for the release button, and it's now not easy to press, which was impressive. And so that's my wireless Shure SM7B, which I really like. And if you make something like this, I would love to see and hear it, or if it's using a different mic or different parts or whatever, that would be pretty awesome. I will say I do really like the Sennheiser EWDP because it also does have built-in recording. So you shouldn't have any issues. It's a UHF system. There shouldn't be any problem with interference or signal dropout. But just in case, you can record to a micro SD card right in here, and then you have a backup recording. That is very nice. And the only other downside is that just by their nature, handheld microphones get used and abused a lot. They're carried around, they're set down, picked up, and regular ones, like this MD46 is in great shape, but these are kind of known to chip and scratch pretty easily. The SM7B, while it is a really strong and durable microphone, the finish of it is absolutely not. If you've ever used one of these, you know if you just kind of like brush up against it, it almost like scratches, especially back here. Paint pops off pretty easily. And so it is something I should mention as you're using your SM7B and you're setting it down, you're carrying it and trying to smash it into bags and stuff. There's a very good chance you're going to start putting some wear and tear on the mic. Should still work great, but visually, pretty quickly, you're probably going to start to notice some scuffs and scratches. So just something to be aware of. It's kind of fun that something that was originally sort of a joke turned into something that I actually seriously like and had a bit of fun with. And a thing that I'm trying to remember people lately is that it is absolutely okay to have fun with this stuff. With audio and video production, it's easy to take it really seriously and everything needs to be perfect, but you can also just do goofy stuff for fun because having fun is fun. And speaking of things that are fun, thank you to everyone who helps fund my channel through Patreon and YouTube channel memberships. And here it is right here if you want to check out my full handheld mic comparison video. And don't forget, if you want to download your own spectacular Bojo, the link is in the description to this video.